What's up, everybody? I'm your unaffiliated, underappreciated, yet uncorrupt reporter, Azure. And boy, do I have news for you today! Remember all those times, well, especially here in Canada, America got a bit of a scare with what was it, Vivek Ramaswamy's? It was like, hey, you guys need some Indian immigrants? Everyone's like, no, 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 of course not. And yeah, and how we complain about it in Canada, as it's like called Singh Hortons. It's my last name, but it's like, the Sikhs are just like, bleeding out of their country to just like bum rush into Canada. Like pretty much everywhere they'll like take them and shit, right? And the real reason is it's like, it's a desperate situation over there. There's a gender imbalance, pollution, population density. It's a place of no progress. It's just like regression, constant regression, right? I was just like watching this documentary, if you will, of this like Korean streamer, and she's just going to India. Dude, she had it so bad, and I thought I hated, the people up here in Brampton and shit because of the way they drive and the way they act and shit. Yo, dude, for her it was like fucking hell on earth. It was like it broke her down. It was a little hard to watch towards the end of it because it's just like, oh my god, like, yo, is this ever gonna stop? Like, are these people ever gonna stop like harassing her, stop like following her, stop trying to rob her and shit, stop trying to like whatever, even worse, the R word. Because it's like, yo, I gotta be careful. And what is it like? You can't say it in like the first 5-10 minutes. Fuck, I gotta calm down, man. Gotta calm my shit down. Calm my shit down before I get censored. Oh fuck, too late. Ah shit, man. Alright, so off to the what do you call it? Off to the un unsubscribed, non-monetized bin for me. Non-monetized. Whatever. I never really wanted to like make this into like, career. It's just more like a hobby. So, the news of today. So Canada had like took in like, I don't know, 100, a couple 100,000, like I think close to a million, but then you spread it out throughout the country. And like the country of Canada, like nation, like the size of the nation is like, I don't know if it's slightly larger than America, but it's just like, we have space, right? So, and yet people are complaining because like they like to bum rush the three major cities. So that's BC, Toronto, and Montreal. And they're just swarmed with these fuckers. Also, like, just like swamped with them, right? Now, you think that's bad, right? So I'm guessing, and I was asking my parents, I was like, okay, how much is it? They're like, I don't know, a couple 100,000, I don't care. But like, you'd feel it if it were a million. 1 million. 1 million. Yes, that's right. I said 1 million. Now, I'm gonna pull up that number again, okay? I just want to see it again. I want to see it again. Oh my god. Oh, it's not actually all that bad. Okay, so Russia is about like 143.8 million. But we want to know what the Russian Prime Minister, Putin, he just said? He pulled a Justin Trudeau. He pulled a Justin Trudeau, and he's like, yo, you know what we need? We need about a million more skilled workers from India. And what's gonna happen, right? They're all gonna bum rush. What is it, Moscow and like every other major city? Just turn it into like a fucking hellhole. It's like you can't drive. Like you're always getting scammed. Like people try to always scam you and stuff. Nothing gets like properly done and shit. Like um, one of the reasons why I left my religion, right, was like they live in this like sort of faux fantasy land, and I'm just talking about the Hindus. Like, I'll get into it with the Muslims and the Sikhs later, right? So just on the Hindu side, so they don't eat beef, right? And some of them don't even eat pork because they don't want to offend the Muslims, right? But it's not in the religion, but they just don't. So like you'll have like Hindus that just don't eat either beef or pork. That does something to you as a man. All right, it turns you into a lumpy ass, like, weak, and not like every like 100% of the Hindus are like this, but you got to expect that a lot of them are like this, like a good like 90%. Okay, so either they're on product, like steroids, whatever, or they got that like special genes, whatever, to just like ingest plants like a fucking horse or some shit like that, horse genes. Well, but like you got like a declining workforce, right? And that's just on the Hindu side, right? Of course, you have the Muslims, you have the Sikhs, right? But and then you have the problem, right, with this. See, Russia is such a vast country. It's neighboring China, Europe, uh, other parts of South Asia like Thailand and stuff, Korea. Well, North Korea, never mind. Korea's safe. They have a nation that will keep South Korea safe. Yo, man, this is like some funny ass news. But like, so basically, what's happening, right, is they're gonna all flood these cities, and if they can't find work or they can't find white women to sexually molest, yeah, I said it. Oh, who cares? I already got sent. I already like cussed out in the first like minute, 2 minutes of my video. I don't care like about political correctness at this point. Like, so they're just gonna like if there's not enough white women to sexually, because like I think their demographic is like they have like a large aged population, right? Because like all the young men went to go fight in the wars, or like brain drain, left the country, or you know what I mean, and then all the girls like more or less the same, but like they actually, the demographic, or at least to the statistics, right? I don't believe them at all, because they say the same thing about, well, the communists said the same thing about China, and like look at them now, right? So they say that they have like overpopulation of females, and then like they're missing males, right? But they got a huge, and I mean huge ass local Muslim problem, right? They got a bunch of motherfuckers. Like you think like London has it bad? Like dog, I've never seen a swarm of motherfuckers like that all praying on the street like it fucking matters. Like, why are you doing that? You're just trying to like intimidate people and trying to like front, so that every time you got like a fucking terrorist attack or any shit like that, you could turn around and say, "Hey, you want to fuck around? Look how many of us are here versus how many of you are there." You know what I mean? And then they talk shit, behind closed doors, or to on the internet, as they do. They say, "Oh, look, we're gonna outbreed you, out this, out that," and you know what? I'm all for that, because like, yo, dog, you want to know what's gonna happen? See, these Muslims, they're so proud of themselves, but the thing that Muslims hate the most in this world, and this is gonna surprise them, because it's coming from me, man. I know this shit. You know what Muslims hate the most? Other Muslims. And when I say other Muslims, the ones that they think make them look bad, the ones that they think that they don't associate with, and that they don't like want like anything like to do with, they don't want to like relations, no friendships, nothing, right? But maybe like as like classmates, maybe as like prayer buddies, or like friends on the internet, they like make friend groups. But like once these people mesh together, oh dude. All right, so you got Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, like the local Muslim population in India, the Sikhs, which are like they have the Muslim blood, right? So they're closer to them. They're not actually like related to Hindus or anything. They're not locally Indian. They're foreigners, right? And they're all like going in trying to mix with their fellow Russian Muslims, which are like Tatarstan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, and like Kazakhstan is actually like a pretty well off country. Don't let Borat fool you. They got like a space program. Pretty well educated people. Like of all like the former Soviet republics. Like that's the probably the most exception to the rule. But more back onto the topic. So they're gonna get like a fucking culture shock, right? The Muslims in Moscow, especially, and when they realize, like, hey, number one, they got the language barrier, right? Okay, fine. They all pray in Arabic, I think. So that might not be like a sticking point, but dude, the hygiene barrier, the culture barrier, the knowledge barrier, the intelligence barrier, like, and in a lot of ways, right? These Muslims, they get down like the way that they like the same way that the Pakistanis, the Afghanis do. Like they all have like share similarities, right? So when confronted with people who are just like them, and trust me, there's gonna be even more, like, trying to enter into the country illegally, trying, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna find like people like hiding inside of airplane uh, baggage compartments, inside the landing gears, like all places that you could hide inside, like, the interior of the bathroom. They're gonna try to, like, hide inside like the roof of it or something like that, and they're all gonna like flood out. So you have like a plane that's only like 300 to 500 people. You get like seven, like almost 1,000 people coming out. It's like everyone just like floods out. The doors open, it just like floods of people coming out. Russia's screwed. Russia is screwed, dude. Russia is no more. Like, I don't understand why world leaders think that they can do this to their local population and that they could bounce back. Like, think about it. We only had a couple 100,000, right, tops in Canada, and we're complaining about that. We had countless car crashes, countless, like, sexual assaults, this and that, people getting caught for, pedophile charges by, like, they can't even post about it anymore because of YouTube's, privacy, I mean, adult content policies. But like back in the day, like, a lot of, pedophiles in Toronto side were getting like booked and shit. And like, I still have some of the videos on archive, but like, you can't post that shit on YouTube. And that's only like a couple 100,000. Imagine what Russia's been going through. And yo, Russia, them cops, they don't fuck around, my guy. They're gonna be like, yo, human rights violation to the nth degree. They're gonna rewrite the Geneva Convention in Russia because of all these Indians, dude. And they're like, you think they're gonna be alone? They're gonna bring everybody with them. They're gonna bring the Sri Lankans. They're gonna bring everybody who vaguely resembles an Indian into your country. You could have people as far as, I don't know, South Africa, South African Indian boys trying to, like, refugee out of South Africa. Like, no, you're not white. Oh shit! America's not gonna take me. The country's going to hell. Russia, save me, please. I'm from India. Ah, dude. And the Russians, you think it's just gonna be that 1 million? Okay, let me tell you something. Okay, there's gonna be like a group of like old people sipping margaritas at, like, a golf course, right? Like a rich golf course, in California, Malibu or something like that, right? Now, in these groups of like old men, right? These old people, you have a CEO of a software company, you have, a banker, and you have a very successful surgeon, right? And they're all like, golfing together and stuff. And then out of nowhere, a fourth guy comes and it's like, "Hey guys," and he's like, he's wearing all this designer stuff, glasses, all that stuff, right? He looks rich, and all the other three guys ask like, "Hey, what's up?" And they're like, chit chatting away. They ask him, "What does he do for a living?" And you know what he's gonna turn around and tell them? "I was a border guard in Russia. I worked in customs at the Russian border." And they're gonna look at him, and then they're gonna like think, and they're gonna be like, wait a minute, oh yeah, and then they're all gonna be best friends forever. And most people will probably laugh at me for that story, thinking like, that's far fetched. There's no way that, like, a guy working the border at Russia's customs, like for Russia customs, is gonna make that much money. I'm telling you, dude, they're gonna be working overtime for a very long time. The second this shit gets signed into like, law and stuff, that's it. That man is working like something like 16 to 18 hours a day, probably, 5 days a week, just to give him the weekend off so he doesn't go fucking insane. And then they just like rotate people. But like they're gonna be making so much money because it's like you're gonna need to hire more, like a lot more. Can you imagine the lineups? The amount of people like going through these metal detectors, needing to like pat people down to secure the thing. Like the thing that like happens in India and like these crowded places a lot, well, specifically them, right? Like India, Pakistan, Punjab, is that they'll crowd in like groups of people. It's like their coward tactic, and then they'll like act tough, right? So when the airplane doors open and the people start pooling out, they're gonna do like a check, with their eyes. They're gonna see how many white people are there versus how many of us are there, and then they're just gonna keep quiet. The second they have an advantage, they're gonna start getting more comfortable. The second it becomes like a slant, like it's just like visible, like you have like a 10% disparity, so it's like 100 Indian people for every 10 Russian people, right? Then you're gonna see like the bullshit. Like here in Brampton, you're gonna see like people driving like asswipes. Well, I'm not saying like Russians are like the best drivers in the world. I'm just saying like it's gonna be like a shock to them just how bad these fuckers are on the road. They're gonna be like a lot more like garbage and pollution and stuff, and it's just gonna be like super common, like almost on a daily basis. So from the time you take them in to like I don't know, either you put them in a gulag or like deport them, forcibly deport them or something, or just like kill them and shit. Like they're gonna be accumulating garbage, and your cities are just gonna be like run down as a result. And that's just like on the garbage side. We're not even talking about on the infestation side. Like, do you think, hygienically speaking, and we're talking about India, like a subtropical climate area, if it's not fully tropical, right? Like, depending how close they are to the equator. Like, yeah, that's pretty much tropical, right? Unless you're talking about like the northern parts, like Afghanistan, Punjab, where it's like that desertish area. But like you still have pretty exotic animals, and when I say exotic animals, I mean exotic parasites and like all these different like types of diseases that come with that. And then like the Russian population is just like you have to take shots to go to places like this. Like if you go to Australia, I don't think they'd let you off the plane unless you had like some special type of immunization against like the local wildlife that will just like basically lay you out, like you're just gonna die from an instant like kill disease. You know, it's so crazy. Just how like insane like that proposal is, because even for like on the part of Canada, like we're experiencing like the hygienical burden of having to basically deal with like I use the word adult children a lot, and I think it's more of a misnomer because it's like that's me describing people who've been raised in like a Western society and this and that. Like for me to describe these people, it's not so much a poverty issue, it's like their culture spits on hygiene, right? So for the Russians, especially the local population, to deal with that on a day-to-day basis, plus like they're obviously a little bit more aggressive. When I say a little bit, like probably a lot more aggressive than like their American or the Canadian or European counterparts. So you're not gonna find like the same kinds of like issues, at least with like arguments with them. But like you're gonna like this is the first problem that's gonna pop up and arise, right? So a lot of Russians who are like the few that are like watching my YouTube channel behind a VPN, they're all thinking to themselves, "Well, we got work camps, we got gulags, we have ways, comrade, of dealing with our uncooperative population. And to that I say, good luck. Because they're just gonna keep coming, man. Like, I saw the population, right? I checked again. So that's roughly 15% of the population of India, right? And I know you guys are fluffing the numbers. I know you guys are saying that you have that many people in your nation, and it's a fucking lie. Because guess what? You have a war going on with Ukraine. Okay? You have a war going on with Ukraine. Of course you're gonna lie about it. So many people left your country already. Do you think you're alone? Ukraine, you're doing the same thing. I saw this like video of like people like these Ukrainian guys dressing up as girls to like dodge the draft. And like a lot of people laugh at them for that, right? But like, can you blame them? Do you want to fight in a war where you're gonna be walking around all these landmines? You won't even see the person who kills you. Like this drone comes out of nowhere. You hear this like a little buzzing like propeller noise off this like sounds like an RC like plane or something like that, and then just comes out of nowhere. Boom. I don't even exactly know how a drone sounds. It's just like that really annoying like buzzing like insect like buzzing noise that you get from like those like electronic like devices, non-gas electronic devices. Oh my god. And that's your day to day. People are coming back with like blown off arms and limbs and stuff. You're sending in the meat in the front lines, these prisoners, these foreign soldiers, these North Korean soldiers, just going in like clueless, getting gunned down and stuff by like the million. The world's like crying out, saying like, "Yo, this is a tragedy." But here's where I'm gonna go into conspiracy theory. Okay, so communism is one of those things that um it's like a governmental force that likes to clean house. So in the case of, let's say, China, right? Like they actually wanted the Red Army and then subsequently the People's Republic wanted like a portion of the population to die, right? To have better control and cooperation. And as crazy as that sounds, it is true. Yes. I obviously don't no I don't think anybody would agree with that. But when you think about it logistically, right? So you're getting rid of your prisoners, you're getting rid of poor people, you're getting rid of like, whatever, right? Like, people who aren't like good at fighting, evolution pushed to its like very brink, its very limits, right? So in their point of view, even though it was a net negative to fight Ukraine, their local population, and there were stories that I heard about like these white nationalists running around Russia, just like randomly attacking people and just like whatever, right? Like you hear like a lot of stories about that, and I bring that up because yeah, I think like the Russian authority wants to clean house, and they've done so, and now you're seeing like, okay, now we're gonna just ethnically replace you with like the Muslims and the Hindus, and the Hindus and the Muslims are just gonna have to fight it out over Russia. So, fuck. So Russia might be the most important battleground for the Hindu versus Muslim debate, right? So if the Hindus take Russia, then they'll have like all those weapons, all that shit at their disposal. And as much as like I like to like bash Indians and stuff, like they're actually pretty smart. They'll figure the shit out and reform Russia into like a better country. This is wishful thinking, by the way. Best case scenario. And then the other thing is the Muslims, they're not having it. They're going to suppress the shit out of the Hindus. They're going to run for office, and they have the number advantage. The local population is just going to do the exact same thing as the Democrats do here in North America and Europe and shit, and play stupid and pretend that like, yeah, we can align with the Muslims and just let their country like go to shit. Yeah, it's gonna be like one hell of a ride, man. Like those two like religions fighting it out in Russia. Like the rest of the world is just like sigh of relief. You know, no more boats. Like at least from the, like those places just coming in. That's like a pretty like sizable like a number. Like we're talking about like I'm thinking like 20 to 30% of all like global illegal immigration comes from the like those regions and shit. And for Russia to just like pressure release valve, I think it's like partially due to the fact that all these sanctions were put on Russia, so they just want to cooperate with all these globalists and stuff, basically. Oh my god, like the mightiest, one of the mightiest, like the country that you think though, like you couldn't talk shit to, that nobody would ever, like, conquer or like, mess with or anything like that. Like, yeah, obviously, like, think about it like this, like, Russia's only losing its war in Ukraine because of the support of America and the, whatever, the allies, NATO and shit in Ukraine and all the weapons being shipped there. Even in fact, that's why Trump's so pissed off at what's his name, whatever the president of Ukraine, right? He doesn't want to give him any more weapons, and then like subsequently after that, and I reported on this. Russia made like the biggest attack with drones and all that shit. So, this war's not going anywhere, at least for Ukraine. But the fact that this is coming out that Russia basically wants these